Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Miltam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome to the Nectar of Instruction study. So now we are today going to conclude this most wonderful scripture with discussion of verses 9 through 11. So we'll just do a quick recap. The last time we met, we discussed verse 8. And verse 8, we're getting the essence of all instructions. This verse is describing prayojana. What do we do acting in the relationship with Krishna? What is the activity that one performs when one has understood there's some bandha, their relationship with Krishna? And the goal of acting in this relationship is to reach our goal, which is Krishna Prema. The topmost thing one can acquire in life, the greatest of all accomplishments, is to awaken our dormant love for Krishna, Krishna Prema. And we've been discussing the 9 steps to Krishna Prema, and sometimes we feel, wow, it's so far away. So here, Rupa Goswami in verse 8 is giving us the process to attain this goal. This book is Nectar of Instruction. And this is the essence of all instructions. And thus he says, the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, quality, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. So this instruction is to chant and remember 24 hours a day the Lord's names, forms, pastimes, and qualities. And when one does so, one will certainly achieve the goal of Krishna Prema. So we can evaluate how much progress I'm making towards this ultimate goal by this metric. How many hours within the day am I remembering and speaking about the Lord? That is a measure of my progress. And in this way, Rupa Goswami continues that one should reside in Vrindavan, physically, but more importantly, mentally, with our meditation, following in the footsteps of those devotees who are spontaneously attracted to remembering and speaking about the Lord. So this is the essence of everything. And so how to remember about the Lord? Well, we talked about last time that we remember what we are attracted to. If I have $1 billion in my bank account, it won't take so much effort to remember that $1 billion because I have attraction to that money, because I put some value on it. If I have remembering that I'm going on a vacation to Hawaii next week, it won't take much effort to have the thoughts of Hawaii in my mind virtually 24/7 because I have attraction for it. So this remembering is born out of attraction. And where does attraction come from? It comes from hearing. When I hear about something great, I naturally become attracted to it. So we are all naturally, intrinsically attracted to Krishna. But how to awaken that? I have to hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna. And by doing so, my natural attraction will grow, and thus I will spontaneously be thinking about Krishna all the time. It'll happen naturally. And we discussed in the 7th verse that this chanting about Krishna initially may feel a little bitter, not so sweet. We may do so out of following some rules and regulations. That is because we are in our jaundice-like condition of avidya. But by sticking with the chanting process, soon that taste will emerge. And when the taste manifests, then it's so sweet that one naturally is remembering Krishna all the time. So this is the concept. And in doing so, we must train our mind. It means that we have so many samskaras, impressions in our mind that we've acquired from millions of lifetimes. And they are filled of all kinds of desires. But we must try to fill the mind with thoughts of Krishna, expunging all of these other material desires. And if we fill the mind 100% with Krishna, then at the time of death, when that test question comes, we'll certainly pass, because the only thoughts in our mind will be of Krishna. So this is the essential principle in instruction, to constantly chant and remember the beautiful Lord. Then we'll be engaged in Vishnu Shmaranam. And our initial reaction is, it's impossible. But Prabhupada says, impossible is a word found in the Fool's Dictionary. By the mercy of Guru, and by the practice of our Vaidhi Sadhana principles, which we'll discuss in Nectar of Devotion, we can see how this will become very natural and very easy. And so the initial stage is just keep chanting, keep hearing, keep reading, and this taste will emerge. So now, Rupa Goswami in verse 9 is explaining to us, to practice bhakti, where are the best places to practice bhakti? And in 10, he's going to tell us who are the best practitioners of bhakti. And then he's going to circle back to the conclusion, the conclusive instruction, which is to take shelter of Radha Kund. So, he's going to tell us, he told us 24 hours a day to practice bhakti. Now we'll see where are the highest of all places to practice devotional service. So we have this continuum, this, gradation. And we know naturally that the spiritual world is transcendental or beyond the material world. This material world in this depiction is just a reflection of the eternal spiritual world. And the spiritual world is very sweet and wonderful. So we have Vaikuntha as the first realm. And it is Vaikuntha, free of Kunta, misery. It is superior to the material world because Lord Narayan resides there in his eternal form. And there is no misery. There's no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. Everyone is happy in relation with the Lord. And so it is the topmost place. And it's explained that the spiritual world makes up 3/4 of the creation, meaning it's much larger than the material world. The material world makes up 1/4 of the overall creation. It's not exactly that. They are both. The spiritual world is unlimited, but it is meant to give us some indication of its greatness. So we shouldn't worry. If everybody takes the Rupa Goswami's instructions, will there be enough space for us? I hope I don't see a no vacancy sign. Not to worry. There is unlimited space for Krishna's most beloved children. So, this is the material, this is the topmost place, Vaikuntha. But even beyond Vaikuntha is the holy lands of Mathura, which take place, manifest in the material world. So the Mathura district, even though in the material world, is actually superior to Vaikuntha. And why? Because Lord Krishna himself personally appears here. In all of Vaikuntha, Krishna is present in his Narayan form. But Krishna himself is not present. And so because Krishna himself appears here in this material world within the district of Mathura, it is considered even higher than Vaikuntha Dham. And because here many of Krishna's intimate pastimes take place, with the Supreme Lord in his form of Krishna, in his eternal original position, there is a very deep and intense loving exchange possible. In Vaikuntha Lok, Krishna is manifest in his Narayan form, which is one interacts with him with awe and reverence, like that judge in the courtroom versus the judge at home. The relationships with that judge are more deep and intimate in the home than they are in the workplace. So like that, this Mathura district is very, very auspicious. It is explained, it is non-different from the Goloka Vrindavan within the material world. It is non-different. So powerful it is. Now within Mathura, the forests of Vrindavan are most sweet and most intimate, higher. And why? Because Krishna's many, many very dear pastimes take place in the forests of Vrindavan. When we read Krishna book or the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, we see all the different activities Krishna took place in each of the different forests of Vrindavan. In Talavan, Madhuvan, Balabailvan, all the different forests. Very many pastimes take place. And so this forest of Vrindavan is even sweeter. And within all the forests of Vrindavan, what is the most potent place? And that is Govardhan. It is the highest of all places. And why? Because Krishna personally lifted Vrindavan, as Prabhupada says, like an umbrella to protect the residents of Raj. And Vrindavan is a place of so many pastimes. Krishna used to play with the cowherd boys in the caves. They used to enjoy all the different rocks and climbing boulders. The gopis used to grab flowers for the offerings. The rivers flowing from Govardhan were nourishing the fields of Vraj. So like this, the pasturing grounds on Govardhan were very pleasing to the cows. It was the source of bliss for all of Vraj. And so thus it is considered most dear, most wonderful. And within Govardhan, what is most dear? That is Radha Kund. Radha Kund's glories cannot be reached, cannot be fully explained. They are unlimited. This Radha Kund, it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Krishna's attention. So this Radha Kund is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani herself. Is anyone more dear to Krishna than Srimati Radharani? No. So this Radha Kund is as dear. And this love of Krishna, this Krishna prema, that which we are desperately longing for, searching for, trying to awaken within our hearts, it is overflowing here at Radha Kund. Overflowing, overflooding. No shortage. And we have one very strong evidence, conclusive evidence of the importance of Radha Kund. Everything else we may have some doubts, but one conclusive evidence of the greatness of Radha Kund was that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan and specifically went to search out and identify where is this Radha Kund. He had asked the 6 Goswamis to excavate all the holy places of Vrindavan. But Radha Kund, he personally came and found and discovered and established when he took bath in one small pond within a paddy field, completely lost to everyone. 500 years ago, Radha Kund was completely lost. Nobody knew. But when he took bath in this pond, such an ecstatic mood of love he experienced. And he declared, this is the most beloved Radha Kund. And with the great service of Raghunath Das Goswami, Radha Kund was then excavated. A bank was created to facilitate all of us having some hope for coming to take visit and having darshan of Radha Kund. To make it easier for all of us, he excavated and presented what is there today. It is by the great mercy of Raghunath Das Goswami and the great acharyas that it has happened. So this Radha Kund is critical. And what should we do? Knowing about Radha Kund, we can understand it is the most select place in the entire universe for those interested in progressing in devotional service. It is the most potent place to render devotional service. So we'll speak a little bit more about Radha Kund in a couple of slides as we discuss verse 11. Now in verse 10, Rupa Goswami gives a similar progression. He gives the progression of advancement of devotees. Now it's very, very important that we understand what determines the advancement of devotees. Why is Srimati Radharani the most highest of all devotees? And what is the progression measured by? Is it measured by how many years I've been in devotional service? Is it measured by how nicely I can sing, or how nicely my tilak looks, or how wonderfully I can cook for the Lord? It is measured by one's ability to please Krishna. We are all meant for this purpose only, to be enjoyed by Krishna. And so the greatest of devotees have the greatest ability to please Krishna. So this is the metric that we will measure one's progress, one's relative position. So the advancement of devotees is based on ability to please Krishna. So all living entities were bound by this common goal, this common search for happiness. Everybody is searching for happiness. We'll see the highest of devotees are searching for Krishna's happiness. And thus, they are themselves very, very happy. And we'll see that the materialists are searching for their happiness. But they take a different approach. So the goal is the same. And Prabhupada writes in the middle of the purport very nicely, very powerfully. He says, what is the purpose of human life? If you asked 100 people this on the street, you'll get so many, wonderful answers. But there's only one purpose of this human life. And that is to get out of the threefold miseries of human life. To solve the problems so that we may become happy. That is the purpose. That is the ability we've been given in this human life. And those who know act accordingly. But those who do not simply try to enjoy this human body in a very detrimental way, living in the bodily conception of life. So now the first person category are the vikarmis. They want to enjoy, but they act whimsically. They're willing to beg, borrow, steal, whatever it takes to try to find some enjoyment from the bodily conception of life. Willing to do anything to acquire money, seeing it as a means to their happiness. Working like dogs and asses, as Prabhupada would always say. Just endeavoring to work, to find some means to enjoy. But the end result is always the same. It is misery, difficulty. And the result of this vikarmic activities is great sin and suffering. Why? Because they're not following Shastra. They're willing to do whatever they want, whimsically, because they're driven by their desire to satisfy their senses. And that sinful activity leads to suffering. And that suffering is manifest in the form of even lower life forms. They will lose this position of human life, which is giving this great opportunity to find eternal happiness. And they will fall down to the 8.4 million species of life. And why they don't care, why they're willing to even risk the lower life forms? Because they don't have knowledge of the soul. They don't think, I'm not worried about next life. Just eat, drink, and be merry now. That is the consciousness. And even if they know, often the lust is so intense that they cannot stop. Right? So there is no faith in the Shastra or the soul. And so these are the vikarmis. Next we have the karmis. And what makes them higher than the vikarmis? They also want to enjoy material happiness. But they follow regulated sense enjoyment. They follow Shastra to fulfill their material desires. Their desire is to gain matter, self-enjoyment. But they're willing to perform sacrifices for Vishnu to be able to attain certain material desires. So this is considered controlled sense enjoyment. And the hope is that they'll continue to progress from this desire for material sense enjoyment to understand some higher purposes in life. Because they are taking shelter of some Shastra, there's some hope that they'll progress in their consciousness. They'll begin to enjoy these different Vedic rituals and begin to enjoy the spiritual practice and inspire them to someday come to the process of bhakti. They have some faith in a higher power. They know they are not just their own controller of happiness. And in this way, there's some hope. But as long as they're attached to matter, very importantly, they'll remain in matter. Practicing spiritual works for material desires will remain you within the material world. Material, I will take another material body. And for these material gains. Yet none of them you get to take with you. They all end. They all end. What could be more ignorant? Spending your entire life acquiring so many assets, so many things, all of which ends at death. So this is the position of the Vikarmi and the Karmis. And Srila Prabhupada comments quite a bit about this. And beyond the Karmi is the Jnani. The Jnani has one realization that is very key in their progress, and that is nothing material will give happiness. Because they have understood, I am spirit soul. So they analyze what is spirit, what is matter, and they abstain from matter, understanding that it will not give happiness. So through some knowledge, through some jnana, they have understood that they're a spirit soul. But it is incomplete. And how it is incomplete? Because the understanding is not of what to attach to. I have detached from matter, knowing I am not matter, but I have not yet understood what to attach to. I have not understood that I am part and parcel of Krishna. But with the great fortune of the association of a devotee, one can progress from this position and learn then how to enjoy with the Supreme Spirit and practice devotional service. And thus Prabhupada writes, out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand the higher values of life. It's a very rare position. When we discuss the karmis and vikarmis, we say that is everyone. That is true. Virtually everyone. It is not everyone, but virtually everyone. So this jnani position is also very rare. So it's higher than the karmis because they are abstaining from material sense enjoyment. But one must continue further, because if one does not understand how to engage the activity of the soul, then one will fall back to their material desires. But one continues forward in knowing how to engage the soul, they become a bhakta, a devotee. A bhakta has detached from matter like the jnani, but unlike the jnani, has attached to the spirit soul's eternal nature of being servant of Krishna. Now understands the constitutional position as eternal servant. And thus the bhakta has understood now what to attach to. And thus they are one step further than the jnani. Okay? They enjoy happiness by serving Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 19th verse, 7th chapter, after many births and deaths, he who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. One who can surrender to Krishna is very rare. And that is the bhakta. Taking to devotional service under the regulative principles, under guidance of Guru and Shastra, one can then come to the platform of this pure love, this spontaneous love that we are all searching for. It starts with this regulated process of bhakta. And of all the devotees, all the bhaktas, who are the greatest? They are the gopis. Of all the devotees, they are greatest. Why? Because they know nothing else but satisfying Krishna. They want nothing in return for their service. They are completely desireless. They don't want their own happiness. They actually try to push back their own happiness because it interferes with their service to give Krishna happiness. Anyabhilashita shunyam, we'll discuss in Nectar of Devotion. They have no desire, only to please Krishna. And this makes them the highest of all devotees. Even the queens of Dwarka had some desires to enjoy with Krishna in royal palaces and opulence. But the gopis had no desire. And Prabhupada explains that the mood of service, which is the highest of all moods, is this love of Krishna in separation. We say distance makes the heart grow fonder. That in separation, the intensity of love is even stronger. And thus Krishna, in his Vrindavan Leela, puts the gopis even in the mood of separation. Though he actually never leaves, he puts them in the mood of this Vipralamba Seva to intensify their love. And when Uddhav comes back to deliver the message, Krishna is explaining to them that there is no difference in remembering me and being with me. The remembering Krishna is non-different than physically being with Krishna. There's no difference. Spiritually, they are one and the same. And we understand that it is far better to serve in separation because it creates a most intense mood of love. And of all the gopis, who is the most highest of all? It is Srimati Radharani. Why? Nobody can excel her love for Krishna. How high is the love Radharani has for Krishna? It is so inconceivable. It is so beyond our realm of understanding that even Krishna himself cannot understand it. And because he could not understand the glorious position of Srimati Radharani, he could not understand the sweetness Radharani experiences, and he had never experienced the happiness she experienced, he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In her mood, he appears in the material world, in her mood, to try to understand the great position of Srimati Radharani. That is how high she is. And her Radha Kund, we know now, is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani herself, this most highest of all devotees. And thus Rupa Goswami is giving us this ultimate conclusion of this 10th verse. And that is, anyone interested in Krishna consciousness should take shelter of Radha Kund and execute devotional service throughout one's life. This is the ultimate instruction of Rupa Goswami. This Radha Kund being as dear to Krishna as Radharani herself, one should take shelter and go and execute devotional service. And one will achieve the ultimate goals of life. So now, in verse 11, Rupa Goswami discusses this Srimati Radharani and Radha Kund. I'll just read the verse. Of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Rajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kund is described by great sages as similar dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. this Radha Kund is so powerful. Even the great devotees cannot reach. But if one does, one's Krishna prema is aroused immediately. So a little history of Radha Kund. How did it appear, we may wonder. Radha Kund exists in the spiritual world eternally, and in the material world within the Mathura Dham, within Vrindavan, at the head of Govardhan, Radha Kund appeared in a very transcendental way. The pastime is related to the killing of the Aristasura demon. I'll just narrate briefly in the interest of time. You can read in Srimad Bhagavatam this very wonderful pastime described. That when Krishna killed the bull demon, Aristasura took the form of a bull and came to Vrindavan under the order of Kamsa to kill Krishna and to wreak havoc, as many demons prior did, and all of them failed. Like that, Aristasura was quickly defeated by Krishna and quickly destroyed. And after killing the bull demon Aristasura, Krishna went to carry on with his pastimes. And later in the day, he went to go meet the beloved gopis. And when he approached the gopis shunned Krishna, said, "No, we'll not come near you today." In this very transcendental exchange of mood, they were saying, "No, we'll not come." And Krishna said, "Why?" And the gopis said, "You have committed a great sin. You have killed a bull, which is non-different than killing a cow, which is equivalent to killing millions of brahmanas. And so we cannot associate with you anymore." And Krishna said, "Well, what can I do? I cannot live without you." And the gopi says, "You must purify from these sins." This is Krishna himself. "You must purify, atone." And then Krishna said, "Okay, what shall I do to atone?" And they said, "Okay, let's give him a very big task, big process to atone." They said, "You must bathe in all of the holy rivers, all of them." And they thought they'd send Krishna on a little mission to go to all the different holy rivers. And Krishna said, "Oh, you want me to bathe in all the holy rivers? No problem." And he dug his heel into the ground. And when he lifted his foot, a hole had been formed. And from that hole, a large, big hole had formed. And he said, "No problem. I will call all of the holy rivers here." And by his mind, he brought all of the personification, all the personalities of the great rivers, Ganga and Yamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, all the great personalities, they came. And they asked Krishna, "What can we do?" And he said, "I would like you to fill this hole with all of your holy waters." And they were very pleased and grateful to render this service. And they filled this kund, and it became known as Shama Kund. And Krishna took bath in this kund. And he came out and he said, "Okay, I have now atoned for all of my sins." Now the gopis said, "Okay." But as they began to approach Krishna, Krishna said, "No, shh. You are contaminated. You have committed sin because you have taken the side of a demon. So now you must purify. And you can take bath in my kund." And the gopi says, "No, we cannot take bath in your kund. It has become contaminated with all of your sins. All of your sins are now in this kund. Shh, we'll not take bath in that kund. We'll dig our own kund." And so the gopis began, Shrimati Radhika and all the gopis, they took off their bangles and they began to dig a hole with their bangles. And very quickly a large hole was created. But now they had the issue of how to fill that kund. So Krishna again offered, You can take my waters. Just we'll dig one hole between the two and let the waters flow into your kund. They said, no, your waters are contaminated. We'll bring water from Manasi Ganga, which is quite a few kilometers away. Anyone who's been to Govardhan, you know, from Radhakund to Manasi Ganga is several kilometers away. There, Krishna, in his mind, had brought river Ganges when Nanda Baba had desire to take bath in Ganga. He did not want Nanda Baba, his father, to go far away. So he brought Ganga to Vraj. And this Manasi Ganga is very holy. So the gopis said, we'll bring water from Manasi Ganga. And they formed a long line. And they had brought thousands of pots. And they were filling the pots and passing along, and made a long chain all the way to Radhakund. And they were filling the water and filling. But much time had passed and barely any water had accumulated in this kund. And the personalities of all the rivers were feeling like, we want to do something, but Krishna was saying, they'll not accept my waters. The gopis were becoming fatigued. And so Krishna instructed the personalities, you go approach Srimati Radharani. You glorify her and ask her for some blessings. And being very soft-hearted and very loving, she'll certainly agree. So the personalities of the rivers, they went and they approached Srimati Radharani. And they glorified Srimati Radharani, being the great devotee of Krishna. And they begged, we want to render some service to you, Srimati Radharani. And her heart, being very soft to the mood of service, said, okay, what service you want to perform? And they said, please allow us the opportunity to fill your kund also. And thus Srimati Radharani acquiesced and allowed the waters of Shamakund to then flow into Radhakund. And a small hole was made between the two, and it was filled. And then this way, Radhakund appeared. Srimati Radharani and all the gopis took bath in this kund, and they filled it with Krishna Prema, this highest mood of love. They left behind. Krishna did not leave behind his sins in Shamakund. He left behind his mercy. And Srimati Radharani and all the gopis, they left behind this pure Krishna Prema. And if one takes bath in this Radhakund just once, one can acquire this Krishna Prema. It is waiting there for all of us. So many long steps from Shraddha to Krishna Prema. Oh, how I'll ever become a Narta, Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Shakti, Bhava Prema. It's right there. Just take bath. So now we may wonder, wait a minute. I've been to Radhakund. Or you may think, is it that simple? Yes. If one has faith. If there is faith and one takes bath in Radhakund, immediately Krishna Prema will arouse. But do we have faith? You may say, yes, I have some faith. I would argue, if you had full faith, if I had full faith, we all had full faith in this, what are we doing here on this conference call? How come we had not even packed bags, just got on a plane and went to India? And went straight to Radhakund, giving no concern for anything else. If Krishna Prema was waiting there, and we had full faith in it, would we wait even a moment to go? So that is why we may not experience it immediately. But what we should do? We should go as often as we can. Take shelter of Radhakund and beg for this greatest of all benedictions, to acquire this Krishna Prema, and to pray, to have faith in this verse. And if we do, then it will certainly manifest. Our entire goal of devotional service is to awaken Krishna Prema. And now Rupa Goswami has given us the secret how to achieve it. It is the greatest of all fortunes to even know about Radha Kund. Prabhupada comments that it is very hard for even the greatest of devotees, like Narada Muni and Sanaka. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, they cannot even approach Radha Kund. So how do we have any scope for approaching it? It is only by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Guru Parampara. By the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of Rupa Goswami, by the mercy of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has presented us this nectar of instruction, we have even an ounce of hope to someday acquire this greatest benediction to visit Radha Kund. So we should understand how we have some hope. It is not by our qualification. We have no qualification compared to the great Narada Muni. Yet by the unconceivable mercy, we can somehow have some hope to achieve the blessings of Radha Kund. It is said that it is only for Krishna, the gopis, and their maidservants, the manjaris, those in this Madhurya Rasa. And that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. So, now why Radha Kund? The goal of our bhakti is to please Krishna. That is it. To please Krishna. That is the only goal of our devotional service. And do we know how to please Krishna? But who knows most? Who knows best how to please Krishna? Srimati Radharani. She knows. So why then approach Radha Kund? Because it belongs to Srimati Radharani herself. Because it is as dear to Krishna as Radharani herself. The most beloved object of Krishna. Just like if you love someone, you love everything about that person. If I have a young child and I have love for this child, even if I see their shoes, that invokes this mood of love because those shoes belong to this lovable object, my child. Like that, Radha Kund is so dear because it is Radharani's Kund. It is her Kund. So Krishna sees it as non-different. And if we approach this, then we can learn how to please Krishna. Because we are trying to please Krishna, we take shelter of one who knows best how to please. And we take shelter at Radha Kund. So I just wanted to read, for our benefit, this very powerful portion of the purport that is in this 11th verse. A little bit long, but just hear and meditate and try to read over and over again. Quote, "This is a most important item in execution of devotional service. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes in this connection that Sri Radha Kund is the most select place for those interested in advancing their devotional service in the wake of the lady friends, Sakhis, and confidential serving maids, Manjaris, of Srimati Radharani. Living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual bodies, Siddha Deha, should live at Radha Kund, take shelter of confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction engage constantly in her service. This is the most exalted method for those engaged in devotional service under the protection of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that even great sages and great devotees like Narada and Sanaka do not get the opportunity to come to Radha Kund to take their baths. What then do to speak of ordinary devotees? If, by great fortune, one gets an opportunity to come to Radha Kund and bathe even once, he can develop his transcendental love for Krishna exactly as the gopis did. It is also recommended that one should live on the banks of Radhakund and should be absorbed in a loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. If one is thus constantly engaged during this lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he contemplated during this life on the banks of Radhakund. The conclusion is that to live on the banks of Radhakund and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. Now, we may wonder, we are many thousands of miles away. How to do this? Well, we can, again, in our consciousness, in our thoughts, meditate on the glories of Radhakund and have the same opportunity. And we can pray that someday we all ideally can go together. And if all of you take me, I'd be most grateful. To go to Radhakund and drop some waters of Radhakund on our head and take bath in this way, in the overflowing ambrosial nectar of Krishna Prema that exists at Radhakund. So this is the conclusion of this nectar of instruction. Instruction bringing us to this platform of Krishna Prema. By controlling the 6 urges, by avoiding the 6 things that are detrimental to our bhakti, by implementing the 6 beneficial things in our devotional service, by engaging in the exchanges with devotees in sadhu sangha, avoiding the offenses, knowing how to approach the devotees, engaging in the chanting of the devotion of the names of the Lord, overcoming our avidya, and coming to the point of 24 hours a day remembering and chanting the holy names of the Lord, and coming to Sri Vrindavan Dham, to the banks of Radhakund, and engaging in rendering of devotional service under the guidance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Guru Parampara. We can find perfection of life. So this is what Rupa Goswami is giving us as instructions as his neophyte devotees. As we said in the opening of this preface, this is a guide to our activities, what we should practically do day in and day out to find perfection of life, to make our lives successful, to go from this neophyte stage of bhakti to this highest stage. And don't think it is impossible. It is possible by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, and all of our acharyas. So, thank you very much for studying this nectar of instruction together. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to read and study with all of you. So, any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvi Pranam. Thank you so much for a beautiful lecture. Prabhuji, just wondering why Narad Muni cannot have this nectar of the Radha Kund, and we are blessed to have that opportunity.
Well, we are only blessed to have the opportunity because of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the only thing. We are far, 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 far less qualified than Narada Muni. Let us never mistake that. We are far, 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 far less qualified. But by the Mahavadanaya, most magnanimous mercy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made Radhakund accessible to us. And specifically, Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments that Radhakund is the place of worship for those who are, again I'm quoting from the verse here because these are very intricate discussions, interested in advancing their devotional service in the wake of the Sakhis and Manjaris. So this Madhurya Rasa, those who are in the Madhurya Rasa can take shelter of Radha Kund. And how we come to understand Madhurya Rasa, that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to bestow upon all of us. Narada Muni is in a different rasa. Doesn't make it any less. Do not create hierarchy. On an absolute platform, they are all perfect. But on a relative platform, as we look from an objective standpoint, there is an intensity of love. And that is here. And that is why at the end of the purport, in the, I think the 9th verse, I don't remember, I think the 9th verse, Prabhupada comments about even this Radha Kund is really primarily worshipped and followed by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas because of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is why we have some hope to reach Radha Kund. It is not due to our position. It is due only to the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other questions or
Hare
comments?
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for teaching us the first part of this Bhakti Shastra course, Prabhuji. It was really, we enjoyed it, and it was really great. I mean, getting up early in the morning, just sitting here waiting for the class to start. It was just, and thank you so much for taking all the time. You know, you're very busy. We know that you're extremely busy, but you take all the time to, teach us. You know, it's really, one thing I've learned is that after your class, Monday, I make it a point to read. I mean, I've stopped reading for many years, but we will read. We start doing our homework diligently, finish it. But I make it a point to finish my homework by Wednesday. But I think it's a good practice. I mean, something really new is happening, which we are really enjoying. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you for all your time and, imparting with us this knowledge about Krishna.
I'm grateful to all of you and Srila Prabhupada and Guru's mercy. So thank you for your association. Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. So, is it okay? But how is the exam pattern?
You say it again, Prabhu?
Is it okay?